Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, and today I'm going over 10 major features that Battlefield 2042 still needs, and hopefully ones that are actually within the realm of possibility. Before we begin though, if you do enjoy the content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks as always for your support. Okay, so a little disclaimer here before you all start shouting at me in the comments. I won't be covering any features in this video that DICE have, already announced as coming to the game, or at least planned, and there are a bunch of those that you may not be aware of, so if that's something you want to educate yourself on, feel free to watch this video here that covers all of those upcoming features. And similarly, I won't be suggesting any features that are completely unimaginable, extremely unlikely, and are just not gonna happen. So for example, a server browser or insane next level building destruction. Whilst a server browser would probably be number one on a lot of people's lists, DICE have already disclosed specifically that they have no plans to implement a server browser into the main game and will instead make do with the Portal persistent servers. So with that said, let's begin in order of least important to most important. So coming in at number 10, we have a simple feature, but an important one, a zoomable map in the spawn screen. So far we have seen new additions to the UI like all chat and minimap customization options get slowly but surely added into the game, and I think a zoomable map would be a great next step in that regard. I'm sure you're all familiar with the troubles. You'll have a squad mate or a teammate who's in combat sat right on top of a spawn beacon or a vehicle spawn, and since you can't spawn on friendlies whilst they're in combat, they essentially spawn block you. A zoomable map though would fix all of these issues and prevent misclicks. Not only that, but it'd allow you to get a much better read on what's happening on the battlefield. It's been in previous games before, I don't know why it wasn't in 2042 in the first place. DICE, make it happen. My number 9 feature would be the vehicle gunner aim indicator. In previous games, when you played in multi-role vehicles like an attack helicopter or a tank, as the pilot or driver, you always had an on-screen indicator telling you which direction your gunner was facing. Now this is incredibly important information. If you're in a tank and you can see your gunner is facing to the rear, it could be because there are enemies in that direction or somebody is running up to C5 you. If you're in an attack helicopter and you hear your gunner firing, you can easily glance down, see which direction he's firing in, and then turn the heli in that direction knowing there must be something of interest there. I can't imagine that it's going to be a particularly difficult feature to implement, so it'd be really cool to see this return. At number 8, we have the ability to remove attachments from the plus system. So currently you can have 3 slots for each variety of attachment, but you may only want to use 2 of them. Being able to remove the third unused attachment would be very welcome, so we don't have to constantly scroll past that unused attachment or possibly misclick it every time we want to change. Again, not a very complicated change here, but something really nice for quality of life, and I've seen a lot of people requesting this. At number 7, we have static gun emplacements like machine guns and tow launchers. So these weapons have been part of every Battlefield game in recent memory. I would love to see them in Battlefield 2042. I think the tow launchers especially could be very effective at defending an objective, breakthrough defense against the OP Hind chopper. Right now the only class in the game that can dish out any damage to flying vehicles is the engineer. But if you had a couple of tow launchers on the map, well, now all of a sudden anybody can hop in there in a pinch, use them to take down an enemy helicopter or even a tank. I don't think this would be imbalanced. After all, they are immobile, so you are putting yourself at significant risk of being sniped or killed by a vehicle. Furthermore, these tow launchers are already in the game. In fact, you can find them all over the Portal maps. Tow missiles are in the base game as well on tanks and helicopters, so it can't be that much of a stretch for DICE to implement these. Coming in at number 6, we have the spawn screen squad camera. You guys know what I mean, right? That little first-person view of your squad mate that's displayed when you click on them in the spawn screen. This used to give us vital information about whether or not that spawn was going to be a good idea or not. If you see your squaddy is literally surrounded by enemies and about to die, maybe think twice about spawning on them. If you see they're in a vehicle and it's burning on 10% health, again, probably not a good idea. In Battlefield 2042, with the lack of this feature and the aforementioned map zoom, you're pretty much blind to wherever you decide to spawn in. At number 5, we have vehicle spawns on a map-by-map basis. So DICE have decided to do away with this method of balancing vehicles since Battlefield 1 released, instead opting for a one-size-fits-all approach and making every vehicle available on every single map. I believe the Battlefield 4 approach was vastly superior, and it gave each map its own special flavour. You know, we had large open maps like Goldenwood Railway with every vehicle in the game, but we also had mid-sized conquest maps like Flood Zone, where you could spawn in a scout heli, but not an attack heli or a jet. You could spawn in an IFV, but not a tank. You had water maps like Parallel Storm with attack boats and rib boats and jet skis, but neither of those vehicles were available on Goldenwood Railway. You had maps like Propaganda with only a single tank. You know, in 2042, every Conquest map has every vehicle available. You get the same amount of vehicles in 64 player as you do in 128, which is just plain silly, and for some strange reason, the Portal maps in the Exodus Conquest playlist have even more vehicles than they should have. It's honestly a complete and total bloody shambles, and it needs redoing from top to bottom. At number 4, we have squad points. So in Battlefield 5, you could collect points together as a squad by playing together, capping objectives together, spawning on one another, etc. And then you could call in flashy rewards like artillery strikes, smoke screens, and V1 rockets. Not only is this cool as heck, but it would further incentivize squad play, something that is still in short supply in Battlefield 2042. I mean, just imagine the awesome options that we could have available in this futuristic world. Cruise missiles, airstrikes, drone swarms, things like that. You know, on the other hand, whether or not 2042 needs more explosive spam is another question entirely, and something that should also be considered. Now, I recently put out a video on leaked data mines by Temporeal, and one of the ones that he found in the game files was a feature called squad contracts. Now, that could be the beginning of such a system, but as of yet, we haven't heard anything official from DICE, so we'll have to see what happens with that one. At number 3, it's quite a simple one. It's more maps, and more urban maps at that. Battlefield games have always had a smattering of different landscapes, from rugged wild terrain to urban cities, but Battlefield 2042's maps, they all seem kinda samey. You know, you're in the desert, you're in the mountains, you're in some grassy, mossy area, and then you've got buildings dotted around the place as objectives, some of which are quite cool and are like little maps in and of themselves, but they still don't quite hit the spot the same way a good old urban map like Sen Crossing does, or Pearl Market, or even a map like Zeba Tower, where 100% of that map was the insides of a skyscraper. I believe this is where 128 players has done us dirty once again. The game is marketed and designed around this player size, and a fully indoors map just wouldn't accommodate that amount of players. And whilst I'm not against DICE making a 64 player or even a 32 player map, I honestly don't think they're going to go down that road, which makes creating a compelling urban map all the more difficult. At number 2, we have a rework of the jets. Now, I've made countless videos on this topic, so I won't go too in depth here, but in short, the maneuverability and flight mechanics of the jets in Battlefield 2042, while somewhat improved, are still pretty terrible. Now, DICE have recently been gathering feedback on the topic over on the official Battlefield Discord. That was back around mid-March, and since then they've shut down that feedback topic, having gathered the necessary feedback, and they are now deciding internally what is to be done about the situation. So something hopefully will be done to the jets to improve them. How extensive it's going to be though, I don't know. At the very least, I hope to see some new loadout options, because right now things are particularly limited, and hopefully some tweaks to their flight mechanics as well. And finally, coming in at number 1, whilst this does somewhat tie into the last point, and it's not something a lot of you would have picked, I would guess, my number 1 is a new jet. Yes, so far we've seen the stealth helicopter, the Ram, the atrocious railgun tank, almost can't bring myself to say its name in fact, and the Cav Brawler, but no new jet. I still have hopes for Season 5's new vehicle, if there is a new vehicle, but I would love nothing more than to see an attack jet like the A-10 Warthog make a return. Maybe in some slightly futuristic rendition, call it the A20 Buffalo, I don't know. Just do what you gotta do, DICE, but I want my Warthog. And that, ladies and gents, is gonna do it for this one. If you're interested in all the confirmed features that are actually in the works, go and check out this video. Thanks as always for spending some time with me today. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.